Day 69 since the coronavirus outbreak. Nice. 69, still here, still alive. All my parents are still alive. My kid's still alive. You're probably still alive if you're listening to this. Maybe your grandparents are not. Maybe your grandparents are dead. Grandparents are dead right now. It's a tough go for the grandparents. That's pretty much it. I didn't know what else to talk about today. There's a few topics I could open up with, but it almost just seems foolish to talk about anything other than coronavirus, which maybe we're getting sick of it. Let me know when you get corona fatigue. I'll switch it up and we just go back to talking about dicks and shit. But until then, it seems like silly to talk about anything other than the hysteria that's capturing and captivating the world. And I think that we're at the point where somebody, and I guess that'll be me, needs to step up and say that the coronavirus is like anything else in life. It's probably somewhere in the middle. I think we've finally reached the point where we can stop comparing it to the regular ass common flu, because it's not that, while also admitting that the hysteria and the quarantines and the ridiculousness is probably unnecessary. I think we can say that. I think like anything else in life with politics and society, it's right down the middle. So, like, for every asshole out there, maybe a pizza-eating boss who is convinced that this is just the same thing as the common cold, maybe we can move on from that idea. Yes, there are more total cases from the flu last year, and yes, there are more total deaths than the flu. There are more total deaths from the flu than coronavirus, but people are dying at a much faster rate with coronavirus. Can we admit that? Can we all agree that that's a thing? That, you know, if you're like 80 and up, you're fucking dead. And with the flu, it's not as bad. I think that's not that insane of an idea to understand that. Yeah, it's not like Ebola where you're bleeding out of your asshole and 1 out of every 2 people dies. Yeah, we know that. But it's also not just like catching the cold where, you're going to fight it off and you're going to be fine unless you're like 100 years old. It's somewhere in the middle. And I've never been worried about getting the flu and coronavirus and dying. What I'm worried about is the fact that the stock market opened up today and was down 1,800 points instantly. What I'm worried about is that if you travel anywhere, you might not get back in the country. What I'm worried about is if I get the sniffles, I feel like someone's going to throw me in a fucking cage and not let me out. I'm afraid to cough or sneeze in public because someone's going to come scoop me up like in fucking Outbreak and throw me inside a glass tank and treat me like a fucking monkey at the zoo. So, there's the hysteria side of things. I mean, I'm reading, it's crazy how much you can't rely on numbers. And I don't know whether I'm at a crossroads with my own personal life, my own personal mantra here with coronavirus, because I am very keen, as everybody knows, on self-awareness. Part of self-awareness is knowing that I'm an idiot. I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. I'm smart enough to know that I'm kind of dumb. So I listen to people who are smarter than me. Pretty much, if you walk around with a white coat, I think you're smarter than me. So when I hear all these stats, I hear all these numbers, someone said it's likely that at least 20% of the world and up to 70% of the world is going to get this. I don't know who the fuck that person is. I could just be someone with a Twitter account. But I don't know. He seemed important. He seemed smart. He seemed like a scientist. So now I believe it's true. Or am I getting to the point in my life where I'm old enough and I've seen enough things and I've had enough experiences where it's time for me to make my own decisions? I don't know. I don't know about that one. Making your own decisions seems like a motherfucker to me. There's just so much riding on every decision you make if you listen to your own gut. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you might get all the glory if you're right, but boy, is there going to be a lot of blame on your shoulders if you're wrong. I like to be like, well, that's what the scientists told me. Blame them. I don't like blame. I don't need to be right. I don't care about being right, but I definitely don't want the blame. But when you see these things over and over again, sometimes I feel like you're inclined to to believe your gut and your own logic more so than the internet and the government officials and the wannabe scientists on social media, because you've seen it before. So, it's if you're young, if you're new, if you see coronavirus for the first time, you're freaking out, you think it's the end of the world. And then if you lived through swine flu and bird flu and SARS and H1N1 and all these different viruses, you remember that those just stopped. There was a crazy outbreak. It was all over the news, and then it just stopped. I don't even know if we cured those. I don't think we actually ever cured those. I think people just stopped talking about it. So, is this a time to step up and say, nah, man, I've seen this story before and I know how it ends? Or is this finally the time where, this one's different? This is the big one or a bigger one, and you got to worry about it. To me right now, the coronavirus is the Brooklyn Nets. I spent all weekend making fun of the Nets, arguing with the 3 Nets fans in existence, talking about that franchise. I also spent all weekend kind of laughing at all the Democrats of the world after Elizabeth Warren made her appearance on Saturday Night Live, and everyone's loving it and praising her. And it's like, this girl just got her dick kicked in. Elizabeth Warren just got slapped, like just blown out of the water, and she's dancing on SNL, and everybody on the left is still like yucking it up and loving it. It's like, hey guys, you're getting your ass kicked again. Same thing with the Nets. Like, I've heard so much about the Brooklyn Nets taking over this city, and yet here we are once again in complete and total disarray. Kyrie, DeAndre Jordan running coaches out of town, giving up on their quote-unquote culture that we've heard so much about. And here we are, the Nets are a complete and total dumpster fire yet again, and I believe they will be so forever and ever. I mean, in a weird way, the coronavirus, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Democrats of the world all tie together for me. Because, like with the Nets, I've heard so much about taking over the city and how bad the Knicks are and how much of a dysfunctional franchise the Knicks are. And it's true. It's absolutely true. The Knicks, I think, are the worst franchise in professional sports. I genuinely, truly mean that. From owners all the way down to the little things, the day-to-day operations, I think they are the worst, most wasteful franchise in all of the 4 major sports. But what's worse than that is the franchise that can't even overtake them during this 20-year drought, during this 2-decade embarrassment. What's worse, that franchise or the one that's on the come up, the one that's doing things the right way and building the culture and spending the money that can't seem to get out of their own way, that can't seem to take the city over? I think it's almost more embarrassing for the Nets that they can't beat the Knicks. And I've heard it before. I heard it when it was Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and they built the super team, and they had the Russian cat, and it was all about, Brooklyn taking over. That never fucking happened. And then they get Kyrie and Durant, and how's that working out so far? Durant hasn't played a game. Who knows what he's going to be like when he comes back? Kyrie's barely played a game. He's doing his whole fucking off the complete deep end shtick. Kenny Atkinson gone. DeAndre Jordan gets thrown right in the starting lineup the next day. So this is another case in the NBA of the inmates running the asylum. And here we are, once again, despite the Knicks being one of the worst teams in basketball, the Knicks still run the town. Now, you might tell me that next year they're going to have 2 of the best players on the court at the same time. I'm sure that this was the plan from Jump Street with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Like, we'll let Kenny Atkinson do his thing and we'll fire him. Fire him towards the end of this season. We'll have our pick for who we want to coach us during our run next year. I'm sure it's all part of their plan. But like I said, I've seen these grand plans before. I've seen these quote unquote super teams get assembled, and inevitably it's the same old Nets. It's still, you can take the Nets out of Jersey, you can't take the Jersey out of the Nets, right? So, at what point do you say, it's happening again? It's another fraud, or is it finally different? Is next year when Durant's back on the court, when they do have their coach installed, is that the year that they put it all together and finally shut people up like me? It's like when Francesa says, when the Yankees are the Yankees, they're the Yankees, It's like, as of right now, the Nets are always going to net. Same old Nets, right? Same old Jets, same old Mets, same thing. But we've seen, especially in recent years, those type of curses and those sort of reputations, they get broken. So, we would have said that about the Cubs. We did say that about the Cubs for over a century until they won. The Golden State Warriors were a laughingstock forever until they became, the greatest basketball team ever assembled. The Philadelphia Eagles won the goddamn Super Bowl. I mean, anything is possible. So those teams and those things, those franchises or groups or whatever with the reputations are that way until all of a sudden they're not. So to me right now, I have supreme confidence that the Nets will always be the Nets. If Kevin Durant was playing for another franchise, he'd probably bounce back from that Achilles injury, put up 35 points a game, go win another title. You put on that Nets uniform, I don't know, it just doesn't work. And Kyrie, I mean, if anybody who still has any faith in Kyrie, it's like, I know he has handles. That's it. If Kyrie Irving didn't have handles, if he didn't have the occasional end one highlight, nobody would be continuing to back this guy. Young kids like his handles and his sneakers, and they think that it's worth it. That dude is the definition of a team cancer. So I think the Nets are going to net forever. What's coronavirus? Is coronavirus the Nets now? Is coronavirus the Nets when KD and Kyrie click and they go on a juggernaut tear? When coronavirus is coronavirus, it's Ebola, okay? And then, and the other side of the thing with the Democrats, I always laugh because I'm somewhere in the middle on politics, and they all clown Trump so much, and they make fun of him for absolutely everything. They jump over every time he misspeaks or every time he's an idiot. And there's a lot of times, don't get me wrong, Donald Trump is like objectively a buffoon sometimes, no matter where you fall in politics. Some of the shit he says, some of the things he doesn't understand, some of his funny moments and the way he looks and acts. Yeah, he's a complete dummy at times. But what's worse? Like I say with the Knicks and the Nets, like what's worse? The guy who's making an ass of himself, or the guys who can't overtake him? I mean, thank God that the left had Barack Obama just like fall out of the sky. Because if it wasn't for him, what the fuck would they have ever put out there? It's like from John Kerry to Hillary Clinton, all these losers they trot out there now. Everyone else who's an option right now is either old and gonna die or a complete fucking dick. So, you can take all the shots you want. You can laugh it up on SNL, Elizabeth Warren, Kate McKinnon. Oh my God, this is so epic. Oh, we could have had so much more of this. Like, how about you guys just shut the fuck up and go beat this guy who you think is an absolute idiot? I mean, really think about that when they're like, they in their heart of hearts, and like I said, for good reason at times, believe that this guy is an absolute idiot. And he's just laughing all the way to the bank, rolling on you in debates and elections and everything that matters. It's crazy. So is coronavirus the Nets of old or new? Is coronavirus, is coronavirus going to make it all the way to the White House? I don't know. I would imagine that being somewhere in the middle on these things, from politics to sports to mass pandemics, it's probably the rational, logical approach. I would prefer that we stop losing all of our money. That would be ideal. Is coronavirus the KFC mush? Now that's something to chew on. Let's think about that for a second. Our Penn National deal goes down, maybe like a month ago at this point. Ink on paper. I remember I get a text from Dave Portnoy. It says, "Congrats, you're rich." Like definitively, period, it happened. I just got to wait a few years. Kirk Seamus Minahan tells me, you're not going to get that money. Somehow, some way, you're going to fuck this up. You're going to die. You're going to go to jail. I'm not convinced you're going to get that money. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you fucking talking about? I'm not going to jail. I'm not going to die. Now, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a plague spreading across the world that not only A, might kill me, but B, is fucking with my money. So what if God or the universe or karma or straight up science needed a way to prevent this from happening? What if the KFC mush is so strong that some higher power needed to create a super virus to either A, kill me, or B, make sure that the stock market completely plummets and, God forbid, Penn National, just gets wiped out in the stock market? The KFC mush is so strong that science needed to come up with a super bug. And with multiple ways. Like, all right, well, the universe is like, well, we'll either kill him or we'll just kill his chances to get the money. That's a motherfucker right there. It's not the Nets, the Knicks. It's not Elizabeth Warren. It's not science, not disease. It's just me and my bad luck and the universe making sure that things never, ever goes my way. That one, that just, that kind of just jumped in my head, and now I'm scared. Now I'm officially scared.